it is fair to say that of all the arenas that we visit throughout the World Hockey Association, that this one here at Le Colisée in Quebec City, especially during carnival time, is just a little bit something special.
Oh, it sure is, Bob. It's a packed house here tonight, and the atmosphere. Right. Goaltender in the Quebec Nets tonight is going to be Jim Corsi, who is currently the second best goaltender in the league. He has a goals against average of 3.04 in 24 games, and the other end of the ice is going to be Al Smith, who is unbeaten in 4 games. He's currently fourth in the league with a 3.11 goals against average, and Smitty stoned them on Friday night, the shots, the opportunities that the Nordiques had. So, 2 top goaltenders going in the game tonight, Bob.
Starting lineups for tonight's game for the Whalers, they'll have Andre Lacroix at center ice with Mark Howe at left wing and Warren Miller at right wing. Of course, Gordie Howe still out of the lineup with a fractured line. Back to Gary LaRiviere. He played with Phoenix in the WHA before a lead for the dangerous Cloutier, and Mark Howe's checking him. Mark in his own zone slides one for Miller ahead for Lacroix. Now Miller down that right side, 2-on-2. The shot, and that hit Lacombe and flew up in nearly the top deck here at Quebec City, and very quickly we have Jim Warner off the Whaler bench to replace him. Lacroix now in his own zone in the counterattack. Dropped it off for Mark Howe. I think the Whalers want to change players. Mark Howe, shot, that went wide of the goal. Carter for Quebec. Quickly for Bob Fitchner just on. Fitchner to center to the Whaler line, trying to beat Hank Slavin and Roberts. Roberts went for the stick check, didn't work. Fitchner continues into the corner. Fitchner centers it. Hank Slavin took it away. Hank Slavin around the right wing boards for Warren Miller. A good lead for Rogers as Baxter stepped into Miller. Fight 2-on-2 with Antonovich. Rogers a good poke away by Tremblay to Fitchner for Quebec. He rolled it to the Whaler zone. We've played almost 2 minutes. No score from Quebec City. Dave Inkpen banked the boards to Gordie Roberts. Pressed by Fitchner. Roberts there bumped by Fitchner. Bordelot to center it. Antonovich took it away from Tremblay. Little Mike Antonovich skating over his own line to center. He's got Miller and Rogers over that Quebec line now on the right side corner. Puts on the brakes for the trailing Gordie Roberts. Cutting in the slap. Good block by Tremblay. Roberts gets his own rebound. Rolls it, but right to JC. Quebec quickly the other way. To Bordelot with Baxter. Bordelot to Baxter, cutting in, bad angle shot. Good block by Roberts behind the goal. This play continues. Gordie Roberts now for the Whalers in that left side for Rogers. Mike failed to use that pass. Tremblay controls in his own zone. Dropped it off for Jim Dory, or rather Leduc ahead for Geoffrion. Geoffrion can scoot. Poke but not out. Roberts trying to dump it out. Here's Leduc after into the corner, and Roberts took it away from him. Gordie Roberts up the boards for Antonovich. Hoganson held it in. A weak shot wide of Al Smith. Hard rebound to Inkpen, trying to tie up Cardiff, who's been out there since the opening faceoff, it seems. Now Rogers back for New England. Nearly 3 minutes played. A good pinball pass to Miller. Miller strolled it in behind the Quebec goal. The Whalers want to change players. Here is Danny Geoffrion in the middle of Leduc. He's around Miller. He's got Cardiff flying down that left side. Cardiff, great move on Tom! And he shot it wide with the help of Marty Howe. Lyle's going to dump it out. Hoganson failed to hold it in, and play continues, no score. Lacombe on that right side for Hoganson. Good action game so far from Quebec. Danny Geoffrion around Warner. He was stopped. No penalty call. Lyle dropped it off for Marty Howe. Marty Howe on the move. Marty Howe to Keon. They call it offside. With the score, New England nothing, Quebec nothing. Let's pause for this message. Bob Neumeier and John Hewig back in Quebec City. No score. We've played 3.5 minutes of this first period, and Plum was out there with Keon, Lyle, and Warner as McKenzie has the tender ankle. Geoffrion gave it away to Warner. His shot is weak and wide. Dug out by Lyle. Lyle trying to center it. Hoganson took him to the glass. Leduc in there as well. The Whalers trying crowbarred free. Warner trying to kick it to Keon. Roughed up by Hoganson. Dug out by Dave. He's got nowhere to go. Leduc ties him up. They try to get a face-off, and they do behind the Quebec goal. 4 minutes played, no score.
I think, Bob, in that last play, Keon, it looked like he was trying to center it out to Georgie Lyle at the top of the circle, and he was tied up very well by Hoganson and couldn't make the play, but Keon's very good on face-offs, so we could get this one.
And he won that draw. Back to Marty Howe into the slot, working, dropped it off, but Lyle wasn't prepared for that. Dubé tried to jam it out. Lyle held it in. To Keon. It hit Dubé. They bang it around in the circle, and Dubé dug it out and cleared it to the neutral zone. Chased down by Marty Ha. Rolls it over to Ron Plum. Plum up on that right side for Jim Warner in the middle of Dave Keon. Keon at center. Keon was stopped by LeDuc. Warner to bank it in weakly behind the Quebec goal. We're still scoreless. Tardif there. Good move on Lyle. Right wing to Dubé. Dubé will give and go to Tardif at center with LeDuc. Tardif over that Whaler line. Stopped by Warner to Plum, and back comes New England. Plum ahead for Lyle. That was stick checked by Hoganson. Play now in the neutral zone. Richie LeDuc. LeDuc to that Whaler line. Dropping for Tardif. A slap. Just pass save for Plum. And Ron will be content to shovel that up the kneecap of referee Friday. Hoganson back over the Whaler line. Hoganson dropped it off. Warner, a good check on Tardif. Jim's got Keon if he can see him. Tardif tied him up, and play is called. The perils there of refereeing Friday in the way of that clearing shot. He took that one right off the leg, and we'll shake off the steam of that.
He took that one in the kneecap, but I might point out that Jimmy Warner made two excellent plays, poke checking Mark Tardif there, and that's the kind of work that the Whalers need.
Here's John McKenzie out now with Lacroix and Mark Howe. John has a tender ankle, and that draws a bit of a murmur from the fans here in Quebec. As Lee controls it ahead for Andre Lacroix. Andre was poke checked there by LaRiviere back to Cloutier, who leads this league in points. Cloutier rolled it in wide of the Whaler goal. Al Smith has shoveled around to Lee. He's got plenty of room. Rick Lee, good move on Cloutier. Lee's got Marcow left, McKenzie right over that Quebec line. Drops for Marcow to McKenzie. Great pass. Quick shot. Oh, and Corsi made the save on a shot by McKenzie. That was low and ticketed for that low glove side. A fine combo there. Lee and Marcow.
Ricky Lee made an excellent rush there. He got to the blue line and dropped past it to Mark Howe, who quickly fed it to Pye McKenzie, and the ankle didn't hurt on that shot. He's a great shot right into the center of the net with Corsi.
Appeared to me he didn't get enough of that shot as he would have liked. He did not have the sufficient steam to give Corsi that much difficulty.
That's right. He was turning around, I think, and he didn't get all of the wood that he wanted with it.
Still scoreless, a crisply played first 5 minutes and 20 seconds. The Nordiques try to clear it, and Serge Bernier will roll it back for LaRiviere in his own zone. LaRiviere's got Bernier. He'll try to sneak behind that Whaler defense, as he did twice the other night against Edmonton here Sunday. Now it's Gilles Bilodeau banging it behind the Whaler goal. Lacroix checking Cloutier. Bernier took out Marcow beautifully. LaRiviere shot. Great save. Smith in the tip. Bernier's rebound with Smith out of the net. But Marcow dumped that to the red line. Al Smith was caught out of the net there. Bernier could have quickly whirled and fired. He might have found himself an open net. Here is Serge Bernier behind his own goal. Dropping it off for Jim Dory. He once played for the Whalers. Up for LaRiviere. He's content to bang that one at his own man Bilodeau. And Gilles, bad news, Bilodeau back in his own zone, rolled it over to Dory. Dory now for LaRiviere. Up on that left side for Dory, ahead for Bilodeau. That was behind him. Hank Slavin quickly back. Hank over that Quebec line. Takes the shot, drops to Lacroix. Backhand tip. Corsi saved that off McKenzie. Now LaRiviere tried to clear it out, and he did to Bernier with Cloutier. 2-on-2. They're dangerous. Cloutier, good move on Lee, but Lee recovered to take it away for the Whalers. Dropped it behind his own goal for Hank Slavin. He rattled it in the skate to Dory. Dug up by Cote. Centers to Cloutier. He shot it.
Bob, on that play, the puck went behind the Whaler net. Hank Slavin tried to clear it, and Cote pulled it out, and Cloutier was right in front and fanned on the first shot and slid the second shot right along the ice and beat Smith on the right side. 1-0 Quebec.
Hardly a masterpiece, but yet a Quebec goal by Cloutier, who knows where the net is. And you saw so clearly on that rebound that Marcow could not complete the defensive check. Hank Slavin went down to try to kick it away, and it just slid underneath his skate behind Al Smith for the lead. Dory gets the assist on Cloutier's goal, and Quebec has the lead. And what appeared to be a very harmless play in the Whaler zone. Here's Inkpen for Rogers to Antonovich. Antonovich over that Quebec line. The shot hit a stick and goes way up into the crowd. From the Coliseum, Quebec City to score. Quebec 1, New England nothing. 45th goal of the year from Dory and Cote at 6:39, and Cloutier, if you had to play word association and you mentioned Cloutier, you'd have to say opportunist, and that's exactly why he's such a dangerous threat. And you can see him just sniffing around the Whaler goal and taking advantage. Here's the veteran Tremblay over to Baxter, a youngster, to that Whaler line, weaving his way. Roberts tried to knock him off. Baxter outmuscles Antonovich, cutting right in. And finally, Whalers still can't clear it. Baxter on the far board. Dropping Cote, his slap. Smith kicks that away. And the Whalers better get checking in their own end. Rogers ahead for Warner, or at least Miller. He's jammed by Baxter. Here's a shot kicked out by Smith. Inkpen there, cleared it around, not out. Again, Quebec with pressure. Bordelot to the point. Tremblay, shot weak, cleared by Roberts. He'll dance it away for the Whalers. Roberts tied up and dumped. There'll be a penalty here. For upsetting Brody Roberts. It's a delayed penalty. Here's Smith out for the 6th New England attack. Now the whistle will not blow until Quebec gains possession. Inkpen rolls it too far for Miller. No icing, but the Whalers will get a face-off deep in the Quebec zone and a hooking penalty to Alain Cote.
Bob, that time Cote just hooked Warner, and I believe it was Warner, and coming out over Gordy Roberts, coming out over the blue line, and it's the first power play opportunity for the New England Whalers.
Alain Cote for hooking at 7:58. The New England power play, no goals in their last 7 chances, 1 in their last 10, and 2 in their last 16. And they have won despite that unimpressive power play ratio, but yet they're unbeaten in 4. Keon, McKenzie, Lyle up front, Roberts and Markow. An excellent chance for the equalizer. Whalers win the draw. Can they hold it in? Roberts a race with LaRiviere. Brody Roberts trying to hold it in. Does so. It's pass for Lyle. On the far board, Banks Markow. Mark back for Lyle. Lyle in the slot to Keon. Keon bumped by LaRiviere. Lyle trying to hold it in. Tardif took it away. Could not clear it. Lyle killed it in beautifully. Shovels it behind the goal to Keon. Keon centers to Lyle. He couldn't get a shot away. Keon behind the goal to Big George. Around the boards to John McKenzie. John chopped it behind the Quebec goal for Keon. Keon trying to set up there. Keon centered it. He's a side of it. Oh, right in front. And New England could not get on it. Now Bernier trying to clear it away. And he does. Full length of the ice. 1:20 on the Cote penalty. 1-0 Quebec. We're early in the first period. Morcata set it up for Keon. Here is Dave Keon from Noranda, Quebec, just north of Quebec City over that Nordique line for Markow into the corner. Dumped it back for Keon as the Whalers try to get organized. Keon skating behind the Quebec goal for Lyle. He's standing the shot. Bernier broke it up and Lyle broke his stick. Roberts, a good play to try and get a face-up. Keon dug it out. Centered it. They bang it around. Roberts dug it out. Keon helping. Bernier for Quebec. The 3 of them battle and they all tie it up. And Keon was working very hard behind the Quebec goal in that section.
Tough worker, and all the time he's a steady performer, and he's like wine. He gets better with age, so to speak, and I think he's kind of disappointed that he couldn't have dug it out a couple more times and thrown it out front, but in fairness to the Quebec defense, they played that very well.
There was that one rolling puck that just seemed to squirt from behind the side of the net, but unfortunately no Whalers around him.
No Whalers
hanging home.
behind, that's right.
Jacques Demers is a very enthusiastic coach, formerly with Indianapolis Racers and Cincinnati Stingers. In the World Hockey Association, this is Jacques' first year with the Nordiques. Got off to an awfully slow start. They wanted his head early, but they won, and now he's smiling again.
Well, he installed his system, and
here's a Markow shot. Of course, he was lucky to get his shoulder on that. He still doesn't know where it is. Stoughton out there now, trying to dig it out. Lacroix and Corsi were slashing in front. I don't know if you caught that at all, but Lacroix is glaring at Corsi. But the Whalers were able to get a face-off. They've got fresh troops out there themselves. Antonovich, Lacroix, Stoughton with Roberts and Markow. They get a face-off. This one will be at the top of the circle to the right of Jim Corsi. Quebec has the lead. Cloutier's goal from Dory and Cote. Taking advantage of some indecision in the Whaler zone for that first goal. So now a face-off with 37 seconds on the Cote penalty. Markow, 30 goals so far. Lacroix will take the draw with Fitchner. Andre won it with Quebec. Tremblay up for Baxter, and he shovels it out. Quebec actually has 3 defensemen out there, plus Fitchner. Tremblay, LaRiviere, and Baxter up front. And the hard-working Bob Fitchner also trying to kill it off. Here's Mark Carr rolling it ahead for Blaine. Stout headmans for Roberts over to Antonovich. Too hard in the bank, and Tremblay cleared it away. It's not a good pass by Stout. Mark Carr for Roberts over that Quebec line. Gordy into the middle. Setting it up for the trailing Stout and cutting right in. Good push by LaRiviere. Trying to clear it out. Mark Howe held it in. LaRiviere gets it back. He overskates. Antonovich lost it to Tremblay. He had two men with him. Fitchner there, bumped by Antonovich. Lacroix trying to dig it out. Tremblay got it back for Baxter. Look out for Coutier. He's on the off that bench, getting that lead pass, cutting right in, and Smith stopped him. Roberts the rebound. Baxter drilled him. Coutier's got it, and Smith made the save. What a play by Baxter. He drilled Gordy Roberts, setting up the Coutier's chance, and Al Smith right there. New England Whaler hockey from the Coliseum in Quebec City will continue. Bob Neumeier and John Hewig back in Quebec City. Nordiques 1, Whalers nothing. Excellent first period thus far. Here's Marty Howe behind his own goal. He's on the defense with Plum. The forward line, Keon, Warner, and Mark Howe. There is Jim Warner down that right side. Shuffles it in wide of Corsi. Rebound to Cloutier. Mark Howe will try to check him. Warner a steal, but he could not dump it to any Whaler. And first, while Lacombe controls behind his own goal. 9:20 remain in the opening period. Lacombe on that left side for Richie Leduc. A lead for Cloutier. Good check by Marty Howe to Keon quickly with Mark Howe. Dave Keon also has Warner down that right side. The pass for Jim, a little bit too long, and he goes to the boards with Tarter. Lacombe dug it out, curled it around for Dale Hoganson. Dale Hoganson on that right side to Buddy Cloutier. Stick check by Keon back to Lacombe. 9 minutes to go. Lacombe, a long lead for Leduc, but he's offside. As Quebec quite often will try to dangle that forward out by the attacking blue line, try to loop that pass for the breakaway.
They take advantage of one stride over their own blue line, and they have a hanger up in front and on the other blue line, and fire it up. And quite often it works, especially in the Colisée here, where they just seem to get the pass through somehow, and all of a sudden it's two Nordiques in on the visiting goaltender, and that spells nothing but trouble, Bob.
Well, that last play by Baxter was superb, the way he was able to step into Gordy Roberts and set up Cloutier at the side of the net, and that was a terrific save by Al Smith. And here is Mr. Opportunist, Cloutier, back for Dory. Stoughton trying to check him unsuccessfully, and he rolls it for Bernier. Bernier trying to find Bilodeau. The big guy lumbers into the corner. Bumping with Smith, dug out by Bernier. Bernier to the right point, LaRiviere wide open, tees it up. Hit a skate, rebound! Covered up and cleared by Marty Howe to Lyle. Lyle ahead for Marty Howe, he overskates it. Stick check by Bernier. Bernier rolls a softwood in well wide of Al Smith. 1-0 Quebec, 8:15 to go, first session. Plum on that right side for Stout. Bilodeau knocks him down. Lacroix controls. Andre Lacroix with Stout and Plum and Lyle to center ice. Andre in the middle, a long slap. Of course, he handled that easily. Dory to shovel it away from Lyle. Jim on the board, stolen by Lacroix. Quickly to Stout, and his shot good block by Bilodeau. Coutier poked it away. And there's Plum to cover up. Ahead for Lyle. He takes it to the red line. Right back for Rick Lee at his own line as the Whalers are changing players. Lee trying to find Rogers. A good deke on Cloutier. Lee weaving his way over that Quebec line. Lee one-man rush. Quick shot. Corsi holds on. And players call. First period action will continue from Quebec City in just a moment. Bob Neumeier and John Hewig back at Le Colisée. Coach Bill Dineen of the New England Whalers, whose son Jerry will be playing in right here in this very building on Thursday for the Hartford Junior Whalers in the Carnival Pee-wee tournament. Play goes on. Here is Paul Baxter, who made that great play a couple of moments ago, trying to go all the way through, and offside is called in Quebec. You know, there's quite a few Dineens playing hockey. John Hewig, he's got a son at the University of Denver. He's got another one in Detroit playing, and another one, I think, in Ontario playing in Junior A somewhere.
4 children playing, and of course, as you mentioned earlier, his son here, and I think that's a tremendous thrill for him to play up here and to be able to attend the game tonight and see his father's team on the road.
Rogers, Antonovich, and Miller, they play against Fitchner, Bordelot, and Cote as Baxter hammers in wide of Al Smith. Quebec has outshot the Whalers so far, 9-6. Hank Slavin around for Miller. 1-0 they lead on Cloutier's 45th goal of the year. He leads the league. Lee stumbles a bit and actually took himself offside on that play. And a perfect example there where Rick Lee took himself before the puck, and of course the puck must always precede the player over the attacking blue line, and that is a classic offside.
That's right, Bob. Bob, while we have a moment, I'd like to remind all Whaler fans about the Whaler wives who will be holding their Waltz for Diabetes Wednesday, March 7th in support of the American Diabetes Association. More on that later.
Play on in the center ice area. Baxter's out in the fence with Tremblay as players slowed down a tad following a racehorse first 11 minutes. Bordelot rolled it to Fitchner, trying to go wide on Hank Slavin, and he couldn't do it. Miller controls in his own zone, bumped by Cote, who dug it out, dropped it off right to lead. There's going to be a penalty, though, to the Whalers. I think Bill Friday has got Warren Miller for putting a lasso on Cote. Live from the Coliseum in Quebec City, this is New England Whaler hockey.
Bob, that last penalty to Warren Miller, they were jamming in the corner, and he just took a stranglehold on Cote and pulled him down, and it is a well-deserved penalty, Bill Friday calling it.
Here's a very dangerous Quebec power play, and they have been awesome lately, especially here at home. We'll tell you about their numbers when we get a breather. Here's the Whalers. Here's a chance here. Mark House whistling in from Lacroix, cutting right in, took it wide, and Corsi just somehow knocked it away. Murkow just lost control of that puck as he was ready to fire it past Corsi from the bad angle. Whalers are very dangerous short-handed, and we'll tell you about that, too. Here's Cloutier, dropped it off for Bernier, getting set. Bernier for Tremblay. Oh, right in front of Cloutier, great save, Smith off Baxter. As Hank Slavin went for the attack, and that left the net wide open. Well, Lacroix over that Quebec line, he dropped it to Cloutier, and you can thank Al Smith for keeping this a 1-0 affair. Tremblay in his own zone. Quebec's power play at center. JC rattles it over to Cloutier. Around Lacroix, centered it. Bernier holds it in barely. Whalers don't think so. In the corner for Baxter. Baxter fanned in his pass, gets it back. Lacroix took it away. Andre slowly just trying to kill some time. Roll it in the direction of Marcoux, and Tremblay, the magician with his stick, knocked that away in midair for Tardif. He's galloping over that Whaler line. The drop to Cloutier. Cloutier looking. Cloutier back of the goal for Tardif. Hank Slavin wrapped him up in a small package, trying to kill it there, and they do just that. We talked about the efficiency of the Quebec power play, especially here at Le Coliseum.
In the last 13 attempts at home here, the Nordiques have scored 8 power play goals, an astounding 62% efficiency. Overall, Cloutier has 11 power play goals, and he certainly is on the ice, and Tardif 8 and Bernier 7. So they have the firepower up front, and I noticed Paul Baxter, you mentioned he had a tremendous opportunity. Al Smith kept it a 1-0 hockey game.
44 seconds on the penalty to Miller. 5:37 to go. First period, Quebec with the lead. They win the draw. Larivia, quick shot, blocked by Keon or Inkpen, one of the two. Keon will try to kill off as many of those seconds as he can. Just trying to skate around, keep away hockey for Dave, doing a great job. The veteran Dave Keon showing his many years of experience, skating back and forth and then dumping in behind Jim Corsi. He probably killed off about 20 seconds there. Now Tardif on the left side of Leduc, 20 seconds on this power play. To Mark Tardif at center ice. Tardif flips wide of Al Smith. They chase it. Smithy will go out and glove it down just for safe measure. And although he gets a few hoots from the Quebec fans, Al will always freeze that puck if he has that opportunity. 13 seconds on the Miller penalty.
Alan Hank Slavin has been playing an excellent game to date. He's blocked a couple shots. He took a shot early, and I saw him limping, but it was only momentarily. And as you say, we have 13 seconds left. Warren Miller anxiously awaiting to get back on this power play opportunity for the Nordiques. And if the Whalers can kill it, I think that's a credit not only to the Whaler shorthanded crew, but also, again, to Al Smith.
Dave Keon, who's worked so hard in this 2-minute session, won that draw. McKenzie trying to chop it out, and he does, and that should kill off the Miller penalty. In fact, he's ready to come back on, and in 2 seconds we'll be back, and we're skating 5 aside, and the Whalers survive that Miller penalty. Leduc dumped it off for Hoganson. Chopped ahead for Tardif. He's got room. Shuffles, red line. Trying to attack, get a screen from Jeffrey on. Here he is whipping into the corner, centering it. Lee got a piece of that. Roberts dug it out. He's roughed up by Leduc, and they'll hold it there for a face-off. We're in the first period with the score of the Quebec Nordiques 1 and the New-Inglënd Whalers 1. I apologize. I just said the score was tied 1-1 when in fact the Nordiques hold a 1-0 lead as the mayor of Quebec, who's in attendance here at Le Colisée. Hogansson's shot was weak and blocked by Plum. Looks to clear it ahead for Antonovich on that right side for Miller. Back to Antonovich. Rogers a country mile offside on that left wing. 4:28 to go. First period, 1-0 Quebec.
Bob, if I may, I'd like to get back to the Waltz for Diabetes for a second. The tickets for this event can be obtained at any Whaler home game between periods on the main concourse level of the Springfield Civic Center. The Whaler Wives will have a special booth set up to sell the tickets, and it's an excellent opportunity for all Whaler fans to meet their favorite Whalers.
Here's Marty Howe fly casting one into the Quebec zone, and it was almost gobbled up by Gary Lariviere, who seemed like he wanted to open his mouth and catch it there in that high pop from Marty Howe. 4:20 to go first period. Al Smith has made 2 big saves in the last 8 or 9 minutes. The Whalers have not had many scoring chances here in the opening period. They've been outshot 10-7. Rogers, Antonovich, Miller with Plum and Marty Howe. Quebec wins that draw. Fitchner excellent on the draws. Lariviere winds it around for Paulier and Bordelot. Bordelot a lead for Bob Fitchner, trying to find Cote, and he rolled it right to Ron Plum. Quickly to Antonovich with a break with Rogers. 2-on-1, but he lost it in his skates. Now Marty Howe at center ice. Marty Howe in a traffic jam. He went nowhere. Marty gets it back, trying to boot it into the zone, and Bordelot took it away. Bordelot, bumped by Antonovich. They play at center. Rogers to lend a hand as well, cuffed by Fitchner, dug out by Marty Howe. Marty trying to lob it in, hit Miller with it. Warren trying to go in the off angle for Antonovich. A shot that hit Hogansson. Now Dale Hogansson, stolen by Antonovich, but he failed to center it. Hogansson and Antonovich battle, but Lariviere digs it out and nails it ahead for Fitchner. Checking very close again. Fitchner to the red line. Plum after him and dumps him in the seat of his trousers. Smith out to curl it around the dasher. Fitchner to hold it in. Antonovich to press him and the puck. And players call with 3:24 to play in a 1-0 Quebec first period lead.
Bob, I just finishing up with the diabetes here. It's an excellent opportunity for all Whaler fans to meet their favorite Whalers at the dance and also help a very worthwhile charitable cause. It'll be a great evening, and again, that's March 7th, and it's the Waltz for Diabetes.
Play back on as Roberts and Inkpen, the Whaler defense, Lacroix, Marcoux, and Warner. Here's Andre Lacroix trying to find Marcoux. Bernier trying to check him, and does, and Jim Corsi out to hold it for Jim Dory. Dory behind his own goal. Dory working it ahead to Bernier, dumped it off for Tardif. Quebec captain hits the skates of Lacroix, and it's Francois Lacombe to collect and send it over to Dory. 3 minutes to go first period. Dory's flipped for Bernier, trying to go wide on Gordy Roberts. Stops, looks, rolled it off Inkpen, skate to the red line. Dory will float it back for Francois Lacombe as the Nordiques get organized. Lacombe back for Jim Dory. Jim slowly trying to find an open mate. Rolls it for Lacombe into that Whaler zone. He's checked by Marcoux. Mark roll that to the red line. Bernier chops it back for Dory. Again, checking, getting very tight. Dory for Bernier. Bernier stopped by Warner. Inkpen in the attack with Lacroix. He was stopped by Bernier. Good checking in the neutral zone. Here's Inkpen for Lacroix to Marcoux in the off wing. Mark cutting in, trying to make a play. Now Inkpen couldn't walk in, and Tardif dug it out. Trying to find Cloutier. Does at center right. One man to beat Roberts. Cloutier dancing. Cloutier dropping. Bernier fanning the shot. Bernier and Inkpen go to the glass. Tardif trying to tie it up. Bernier and Inkpen freeze it, and once again we have a face-off deep in the Whaler zone. Another example there of the quick headman passing of Quebec, especially Tardif, Bernier, and Cloutier.
And Cloutier right again, right on the spot. He was ready to take the pass, and Gordy Roberts made a good play in tying him up. The Eagle, Mark Tardif, has had a couple excellent scoring opportunities here tonight, and he had one length of the ice rush earlier, and Smitty made an excellent save on him, but you've always got to keep him under check. Jim Warner's done a good job today.
Tardif, Leduc, Geoffrion, Keon, Lyle, and Warner. Again, the lines are jumbled because of the strategy employed by the coaches. Coach Bill Deneen wants Marcoux near Cloutier as many times as possible. Mr. Lyle with 4 goals in his last 4 games. giving the Keon line a big shot of adrenaline on the left side. Lee behind his own goal, 2 minutes to go, first period. Lee's stumbling a bit, but regains his composure. Keon will swing behind the goal, accept that puck, and drop it right back to Rick Lee. And he rattled that off the skate of a Quebec player, gets it right back. Lee on the attack, over that Quebec line, the shot wide of the goal. Rebound to Lyle. Lyle, bad angle, he fanned on it, Tardif back, but he rolled one to the center ice. Keon to chop it back to Hank Slavin as Marty Howe replaces Lee. Marty Howe just lobs that to the Quebec line, 1.5 minutes to go in this first session. Baxter for Leduc, good tip to Geoffrion. Lyle and Marty Howe sandwich him. Geoffrion dug it out though for Leduc. Offside is the call. Danny Geoffrion is the son of Boom Boom Geoffrion, of course, who made his mark many fabulous years with the Montreal Canadiens. He's a rookie and provides a lot of dash for Coach Jacques Demers and his Nordiques.
He certainly does, Bob. They call him the baby boomer up here in Quebec City, and he got off to a slow start, but I believe he has 11 goals now for the Nordiques, and the second last time they were in Springfield, he popped a couple in the Quebec victory.
Whalers playing stylistically anyway, a classic road style. He's trying to wait for a break and check Quebec. You cannot open the gates against this team and try to skate with them, especially here. Now Fitchner dug it out for Bordelot. Marty Howe took it away, cranked it around. Cote will hold it in. He's a big, strong young winger. Cote rolled it to Fitchner. Fitchner battling with Marty Howe. They kick it around. Plum trying to dig it out. We have less than a minute to go in this first period. Tonovich rattled by Cote, who's a good corner man. Fitchner keeps it alive. Behind the Whaler goes, centered it, but right to Rogers. And all he could do was dump it deep to the Quebec zone. This will not be ice. Tonovich racing there. Forced Corsi to play it around the right side to Bordelot. Quick lead for Fitchner with Cote. Whalers back-checking well here, though. Miller on Fitchner, dumped it back for Lacombe, right side, LaRiviere. LaRiviere rolls one, look out for Bordelot, but Plum knocked it away. Up for Antonovich on that right side for the trailing Miller. Miller, a good deke on Cote for Rogers. Another move on Lacombe for Plum, cutting in, a shot, score! Ron Plum ties the game for the Whalers.
Bob, on that particular play, it was Antonovich who threw the puck over to Warner. Then Rogers has it, passes it to Plum, and Plum let a blast go from the top of the circle that beat Corsi. I believe it was on the short side, and with just 23 seconds left in the period, it's a 1-1 hockey game, and that's a big boost for the New England Whalers going into the dressing room here in Quebec City.
Ron Plum from Rogers and Miller at 19:37, and we've got a tie hockey game, and Plum caught the short side on the glove side of Jim Corsi. Gordy Roberts now has time winding down. A big goal by Plum late in this first period. LaRiviere behind his own goal with 6 seconds. He may have a chance for a long bomb. He'll try one. It'll be weak and handled without difficulty by Al Smith. The siren sounds. So at the end of the first period, the score, the New England Whalers 1 and the Quebec Nordiques 1. Bob Neumeier and John Hewig back at Le Coliseum, Quebec City. A good hockey game thus far. The Whalers Nordiques tied 1-1. Raspluvcha's 45th goal of the year for Quebec at 6:39. But a fine play by the Whalers to tie the game at 19:37. And I think on this goal that Ron Plum catches Jim Corsi a little bit by surprise.
Oh, I think definitely he did. It developed with Mike Rogers picking it up the blue line and passing it over to Miller, and then Plummer took the shot, and it was he really teed it up, got 100% of the wood, and I think he caught him on the short side, and he just wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, LaRiviere might have got a stick on that as well. It took off awfully fast on Corsi. It didn't seem that he shot it that hard, but he did catch him by surprise. It might have hit LaRiviere's stick, but it tied the game. That's all that matters.
That's right. That is what matters. I did talk to Claude Rochelle, and he thought it hit LaRiviere's stick, too, so I think you could probably be right on that, Bob.
Okay, here we go in the second period with Al Smith defending to my left. John Garrett is the Whalers' backup goalie here this evening. Al Smith has played in 14 of the last 18 Whaler games. So here we go with second period play-by-play, and Baxter rolls to Tardif, and he dumps it in wide of the Whaler goal. 1-1 as we start period number 2. Captain Rick Lee rolls for Hank Slavin. Good crisp lead to Lyle on that off wing for Keon. He tipped that wide of Quebec goalie Corsi. Jim holds there for Baxter. Round the boards on that left side for Mark Tardif. Quick lead out for Richie Leduc with Jeffrey on. 2-on-3. Dumps wide of Al Smith. Lee will screen Jeffrey on, collect the puck, try to roll it around for Warner. Tardif took it away, wide open Leduc. Lee recovered beautifully. Lee ahead for Lyle, and that was nearly death for the Whalers as wide open was Danny Jeffrey on, but Lee with a quick recovery. Now Hank Slavin to Lyle in his own zone. Lyle dumped it off for Lee on that right side for Hank Slavin. Quickly on that right wing for Jim Warner. Warner attacking with Lyle over that Quebec line for George. He clearly jumped the gun offside. Anxious moments there in the Whalers zone as Danny Jeffrey on had pitched himself a 10 in front of Al Smith. Put down a nice table and spread, had himself some fried chicken, and fully recovered, though.
He sure did. And Tardif made a nice feed to Leduc, too, that was broken up nicely by the Whaler defense. Still a 1-1 game. Jim Corsi has made some excellent saves for the Nordiques to keep it 1-1, too.
Here's Roberts cranking in behind the Quebec goal. It's 1-1. Hoganson with the control. On that left side to Bilodeau. Rink wide for Cloutier. He's got Roberts to try and beat. Cuts into the middle, and Roberts poked that just up. Cloutier back for Lacombe. Up on the right wing for Hoganson in his own line. Dale dumped it off at a swinging Cloutier to Bilodeau, and that didn't work. Inkpen back. He rolled one deep to the Quebec zone. Mark Cow and Lacombe after it. Francois bumped by Mark. Stole it, but Bernier covered smartly. Give and goes with Hoganson. Bernier, center ice. Bernier dumps wide of Al Smith. Mark Cow's got Cloutier tied up, and Mark Cow's got that puck with McKenzie and Lacroix. Right wing to John. Had to wait for that slow pass. Now in the middle of Lacroix, they crisscross. Andre getting set. The slap. Oh, and Corsi just going to skate on that. And that was destined for that far corner. Now Tremblay for Cloutier on that right side for Bernier with Inkpen to beat. A bomb, and Smith somehow going to shoulder that rocket off the stick of Bernier. Good chances both ends. Lacroix and Bernier. Lacroix, the master with a stick. Rolls for Roberts, too long. Hoganson controls. Roberts from the defense position in behind the Quebec goal. Mark Cow covers for him. Now Cloutier starts it ahead for Bilodeau. Bilodeau, stopped by Lacroix. Bad pass by Bad News Bilodeau. Lacroix for Mark Cow with Inkpen. Good deke over the line. Wrist shot. Tipped into the crowd. And with a score, New England 1, Quebec 1. Whaler hockey will continue in just a moment. Neumeier with John Hewig back at Macaulay Stadium, Quebec City. We're tied. Whalers 1, Nordiques 1 early in the second period. We played 2 minutes and 20 seconds as Fitchner rolls it for Bordelot to the trailing Cote. He was stick-checked by Plum. Cote hammers in behind goalie Al Smith. Drops it off for Marty Howe on that left side for Antonovich with plenty of skating room in the middle of Rogers. Over that Quebec line, Rogers wrist shot. Corsi's pad save hard. Rebound for who? Miller. To Marty Howe to Plum, tees up another, well wide. Rebound in front. Corsi had to be alert. That took a good New England Whaler bounce, but Corsi was able to shovel it to the chest, and no Whaler could poke that into the empty goal.
Well, one fault that if I had to point one out with Corsi tonight and also last Friday night in Springfield is that he's taking these high shots off his glove pad and letting them bounce out, and the defense are not clearing it. And the Whalers have an opportunity to pounce on it. It could very quickly be a 2-1 hockey game.
Face off to the left of Corsi. Quebec won the draw. Dory, bumped by Rogers. Dory's able to feather it ahead for Fitchner with Cote, and Marty Howe took it away nicely. Marty Howe trying to find Rogers. 2-on-1 with Antonovich. Mike in to Mike Antonovich. Back to Rogers. Dory broken up. It just slid wide. Just a bit of confusion there between Rogers and Antonovich. Here's the Rogers steal bumped by LaRiviere. They tied up. Miller crowbarred it free. Dory's after him. Antonovich trying to roll it, and he does, but Plum had cheated in, and the loose puck rolls to the Whaler zone. The 2-on-1 by Rogers and Antonovich just failed to click. Dory at center ice, bugged by Miller, but he couldn't steal it. Dory content to dump it in behind Al Smith. Mike Antonovich, plenty of skating room down that right side. His off wing, center ice to the Quebec line, crisscrossing play with Rogers. Get it back from Cote. He's cutting in, dropped it for Hank Slavin. Cote took it away. Here's a break with Fitchner, but we're going to have penalties to, I believe, Corsi for slashing. Whalers hockey is coming to you live from Quebec City. Jim Corsi has received a slashing penalty at 3:42. It's being served by Danny Jeffrion, and the Whalers have a power play and a chance to take the lead. They have never led tonight. Quebec scored early. Whalers tied it up late in that first period. Now a power play and a chance to take a lead. They've got Lacroix, Roberts, Keon, Marcoux, and Lyle out there. Whalers get organized in their own zone with Dave Keon, dumping it off for Lacroix. Short feed ahead for George Lyle. Lyle dumps in the middle of Keon at center right. Right back for Lyle. Lyle steaming right through. Quick shot. He fanned on it. Lyle got it back. He hit the referee with his clearing pass. LaRiviere trying to dump it out. Lyle and Keon take it away. Bordelot to Lacombe. Slapped it net out. Roberts, good job to hold it in. Dumps behind the Quebec goal. No Whalers around. LaRiviere again attempting to clear. Roberts again holding it in. Jams it in the corner. LaRiviere couldn't dump it out. Lyle took it away. Cutting in. His shot hit the goalpost. Lyle rocketed one off the pipe. Lacroix in deep to Marcoux. Marcoux looking. Cross ice. Roberts into the corner. Roberts looking. Centers it. Keon jammed it. Corsi held it out. And Corsi very, very lucky. First on the Lyle rocket off the post, then on Keon sniffing around the goal mouth.
Lyle's shot definitely was a blister, and Mark Howe was cruising him on the other side, and the play originated with Gordy Roberts coming in, and then Lyle picked it up and moved in at a sharp angle, let it go. It rammed off the post, and Mark Howe was just in too close, or he could have jammed it home. Then Lacroix fed it back again to Mark Howe. He threw it over to Gordy Roberts, and it ended up in a tangle in front of the net, and Corsi made a good couple of good saves to keep it at 1-1.
107 on the Corsi penalty. Served by Jeffrey on Keon won the draw. Marcoux back to Keon, right point Lacroix, backhand pass, left point Gordy Roberts, loads the gun, does not shoot. Rattle that into the slot. Tremblay trying to dump it, does to Fitchner. He'll skate it away with Baxter. Fitchner, good penalty killer. Stolen by Marcoux, recaptured by Hoganson around for Tremblay. Dumps for Baxter, and it rolls to center. Lacroix will dump it away from Baxter, ahead for Keon. He overskates. Fitchner back with Baxter. He's going to skate off some puck. Brad wanted Fitchner to attack the puck, but he's going to skate off some of the seconds. Roll it to Baxter. Baxter, good move on Roberts, but there's Marcoux to overskate it. Baxter doing a great job. Whalers having trouble. Fitchner took it out, dumped it back for Tremblay. More seconds. Fritter away. 20 left on the Corsi penalty. Hoganson in trouble now. Stolen by Marcoux. Cutting in. Whirling backhander wide of the goal. Lyle dug it out. Centered it. It's loose. They jam at it. Still jamming. Quebec clears. One-on-one. Baxter and Lacroix. Roberts trying to help out Andre. Great play by Baxter. Cutting in. Shot it just wide. Well, there is Lacroix, a forward by trade, trying to stop Baxter on the one-on-one, and good thing Roberts helped out. There's Lacroix dancing back. Teams are five aside. Lacroix the slap. Corsi had that trickle between the skates. Luckily wide of the goal for Quebec. Lyle is steal. Centers it to Roberts. Turns from back to forehand. Trying to chop it over to Hankslavin. Does. Cutting in. Slap shot to the side of the net. Whalers pressing for that equalizer, or rather the lead goal. Trying to feed Hankslavin to Leduc. 3-on-1. Jeffrey on. Wide of the goal. Rebound to Lyle. Up and down we go. A lead for Miller. He's got Hankslavin. There's Hank over the line. Back to Miller. Chopped it, but right to Tremblay. Banked it for Tardif. Stumbles and falls. Rolled it to Jeffrion. Good deke on Rogers. Trying to beat Lee. Lee the poke check. Now it's Tardif at center ice for Leduc, and he was sandwiched by Lee and Hankslavin. Lee, right wings Warren Miller. Excellent period. Miller cross ice Antonovich. Cutting into the corner. LaRiviere's after him. Rogers trying to keep it alive. Antonovich for Rogers. Nowhere to go. They try and dig it out. Quebec's got it. And Jeffrion clears it to the red line. Lee on it there. Cross ice Hankslavin rattles in behind Corsi. The Whalers call in the offside. We have some terrific action here in the second period.
It's been racehorse hockey, Bob, and the second period, it's very characteristic of the first 10 minutes. Now, we have a little mix-up here with Ricky Lee and Bernier and LaRiviere, and Tardif is in there getting his words in, but referee Bill Friday's straightening it out here, and Ron Fournier is helping out too, along with Wayne Bonney. But as you mentioned, it's been racehorse hockey. It's been that slap shot by Jeffrion. That reminds me of his father, not more than 20 years ago.
Pretty obvious to me that the Whalers have taken the game to Quebec here in the second period. They've outshot them so far 5-1.
I think they have. We have one point in time, Leduc was just totally sandwiched by Ricky Lee and Alan Hangslave, and it was an excellent defensive play.
7 minutes played, second period. Whalers pressing for the lead goal. They have come so close. Here's Jim Dory now for Quebec, deep in his own zone. Rolled it for Bilodeau. That failed to click. Hank Slavin will control in his own territory. Hank cranks that too deep for Mark Howe. It'll roll to LaRiviere. Weaving his way over that Whaler line. LaRiviere down that right side. LaRiviere stops. Rolled it to Cloutier. Over to Bilodeau. McKenzie took it away. He's got Mark Howe, but John failed to clear it. Cloutier centers it. LaRiviere. Quick shot. The big block by Lee. And it rolls harmlessly to center ice. Captain Rick Lee stepping in there when needed. Bernier and Dory exchange in their own zone. Dory rolls it over to LaRiviere. Ahead for Bilodeau. He can't accept too many passes, including that one. This may be icing. It is icing on the Quebec Nordiques. Quebec outshot the Whalers 11-8 in the first period, but so far 5-1 in favor of New England.
They sure have. I'd like to take a moment here to mention about the tremendous sale that's going on right now in the Whaler gift store and pro shop, and it will continue up until Monday, February 12th, including this Sunday, where 30% discount will be given to all merchandise in the building, and that includes the newly done pro shop with skates and all equipment for junior Whaler or Oakville Whalers. So all Whaler fans take advantage of the sale coming up here.
Play back on as Andre Lacroix dropped it off for John McKenzie. A feather tip. Corsi a save. Mark Howe got a piece of that. Now Jim Dory behind his own goal. Dumped it off for Bernier. The Whalers have been knocking on Corsi's door, but he hasn't let him in yet. Offside not called as Lee triggers Mark Howe and John McKenzie to mark over the line. He's got Lee in the give and go. He centered it, and Cloutier takes it away. Comes back 3-on-3. Over to Bernier for Cloutier. Back for Bernier. Bernier tried to center it, hit the side of the net. And Lacroix rolls it ahead for McKenzie. He's got Mark Howe busting right in the butt. Mark Howe, one man to beat. LaRiviere, bad angle slap. Of course he kicked it away. Rattled it around the boards. Bilodeau and McKenzie. Bilodeau cleared it. Where's the puck? It's at the Whaler line for Marty Howe. Marty Howe chased by Bernier behind his own goal. 1-1 second period. Marty Howe to McKenzie. John playing with a sore ankle ahead to Keon. The slap. And then, of course, he got to skate on that. Legacy, his first shift. Bumped by Keon for Cloutier. Good lead for Bilodeau. He's got 3 men to beat. Long slap. Easy save, Smith. Bilodeau's after the rebound. Plum jammed into the glass. Marty Howe dug it out. Cloutier stole it. Marty Howe gets it back and whips it up the ice. Clear cut icing violation on the Whalers. With the score, New England 1, Quebec 1. Let's pause for this message. We've got 10 minutes and 40 seconds left in the middle period. The Whalers won and the Quebec Nordiques won. Whalers have outplayed Quebec by a wide margin here in the second period, but have nothing to show for it. Tremblay's shot hit a leg wide of the Whaler goal. Ron Plum, who tied the game, roughed up by Cote. Bordelot to center it. Here's Tremblay to Baxter, loads the gun. A shot. Smith kicked it out. They bang it around. Legacy rolled one. Cote a hammer. There's going to be a penalty to the Whalers. It's delayed. Legacy for Cote. Whalers trying to get possession. Cote rolled it for Legacy. Finally the whistle. I thought it was premature, but we're going to have a holding penalty. I think Ron Plum is the culprit. At 9:45 of the period, and Quebec will have their second power play of the game. Plum, I believe, is the guilty party. Plum and Cloutier have scored the goals here this evening. The Whalers have outshot Quebec here in the second period, 8-3, and they've had some good chances. 9:45, the time of the Plum violation. It is a holding call. So here is the always dangerous Quebec power play. Do they have firepower out there? How about Cloutier? 45 goals. How about Tardif? 29. That's not enough. How about Bernier? 26. And the crafty Tremblay will mastermind things in his own zone ahead for Tardif. Tardif flashing over that Whaler line. Tardif dumped it off for Baxter. Stick check by Keon. McKenzie grappled for it with Tardif. Hank Slavin as well. Hank dug it out. Cloutier took it away. Centered out. It's loose. And Smith on the goal line. That puck was lying. Hank Slavin made the mistake, John Hewig, of trying to deke it around Cloutier rather than carry it around the boards, and he nearly got hurt.
Cloutier's a tough man to deke it around, especially behind the net, and then the play developed out front, and you have to give credit to Hank then for standing his ground with Paul Baxter, and Baxter's playing a tremendous aggressive game here tonight, I believe.
Minute 37 on the penalty to Plum. That was the first-class opportunity for Quebec to tie the game. Keon won a big draw, and this time Hank Slavin does carry it the full length of the ice. Minute and a half to go in the Plum penalty. Here is J.C. Tremblay rolling it ahead for Tardif. Caught him right in the button at center ice with Baxter. The lead for Paul Hank Slavin trying to chip it out. They go to the boards. Keon, Tardif, Hank Slavin, and players call. Minute 17, the Plum penalty. And Dave Keon and Mark Tardif. Keon may be Tardif's biggest fan. He thinks he is the best in this hockey league.
Yes, Davey said that a couple times, and again, you can't, Tardif is a great hockey player, and he has been since coming to this league, but you can't take anything away from Keon's teammate Mark Howe either.
Here's Lacroix winning a big face-off, skating it away with the aforementioned Mr. Howe to Mark, very dangerous. Ooh, Bernier took it away. Mark Howe got it back, going to tie it up in the far boards. He's trying to stall things as those seconds tick away, and does a great job of getting a face-off in the attacking zone. That's what you want to do when you're killing a man, is just keep that puck in the power play team's end. They can't score from there.
That's right. You talk about Mark Howe. He's got 6 short-handed goals, which leads the league, and his line mate Andre Lacroix has 4. And
there's a minute to go now in the Plum penalty. 9:13, second period. Bernier to the red line. Bernier dashing over that Whaler line, setting up shop, dumping behind Al Smith. Al to shovel it around the dash to Mark Howe. Cloutier took it away, back for Bernier. Lacroix stole it. Lacroix with Lee. Hank Slavin attacking, 3-on-2 if they want it. Over to Lee, cutting it at a bad angle, right in front. Score! Short-handed goal, Rick Lee, and the Whalers have grabbed the lead.
We were just talking about short-handed goals, and Lacroix picked up a pass in his own zone and just kind of waited for Lee to come up, and then he just blew right around J.C. Tremblay and cut in and threw it upstairs over Corsi's left-handed shoulder, and it's a 2-1 Whaler lead, and what a lift that is, a short-handed goal.
A magnificent play by the Whaler captain. Balance and the presence of mind to flip that puck over Corsi, despite being checked by Tremblay, who, as John Hewig so accurately pointed out, was cleanly beaten on the outside on that short-handed goal by Rick Lee. So the Whalers have the lead for the first time in the game. Still, don't forget, 30 seconds on this Nordic power play. Bordelot to Fitchner, squeezed by Lee and Mark Howe. Hank Slavin crunches Bordelot. Fitchner dug it out to the trailing Hoganson. Blocked by Lee. What a game. And Lacroix shovels the Nordic zone. There is vintage Rick Lee here in this sequence as Lacombe starts it out for Quebec. 10 seconds on the power play to Bordelot. Stick check by Rogers. 4 seconds, and Plum will be back on. Ron Plum is out, and the Whalers are back by the side. Lacombe to Cote, offside. From the Coliseum, Quebec City to score. The New England Whalers 2, the Quebec Nordiques 1. 7 to go. Second period, Whalers have grabbed the lead, and a spectacular finish by Lee, short-handed. If that wasn't enough, he decided to go down and block a dangerous Quebec shot. Seconds thereafter, Lacombe for Fitchner. Jams in behind the Whaler goal. Roberts there to shovel it around for Antonovich. Cleared it for Rogers. He's out with Miller 2-on-2. Mike in the middle. Over the line. He's got Inkpen trailing. Good pass to Dave. Cutting in. Jammed it to Miller in front. It's still loose at the side of the goal. Rogers dug it out. Rogers trying to make a play. Rogers from behind the goal. Rogers has Roberts. Instead goes to the slot. Dumps it back for Gordy. Wrist shot. Wide of the goal. Bordelot for Quebec. Not out. Bad play, Bordelot. Rogers held it into Antonovich, wheeling, trying to make a play. Hoganson took it away. Dumped it over to Bordelot. New England playing extremely well in the second period. They lead 2-1. Roberts to Rogers quickly, looking for Antonovich. Stops, shoots, wide. Antonovich dug it out of the corner. Miller was tripped, play went on. Rogers over to, Antonovich to Rogers. Behind the goal to Miller, they press. Miller centered it. They volleyballed around. Antonovich, Rogers, a chance. Oh, he just missed the net. Now Lacombe there as Rogers, Antonovich, Miller so pesky. Roberts knocked it away. New England storming here in the middle session. They lead 2-1. They're trying to add to their lead. Here's Dave Inkpen in his own line for Mike Antonovich. The Munchkins over that Quebec line. Rogers dashing in. They called Miller on the offside. And that is forechecking par excellence, as they say here in Quebec City, on the line of Rogers, Antonovich, and Miller.
Sure is, Bob. That was a tremendous shift for the Rogers and Antonovich and Miller, and they're digging. I saw Rogers started out at the center ice, for example. Miller was about 2 steps over his own blue line, and he caught up to him at the blue line, and that's nothing but hustle.
6:46 to go, middle period. New England well deserving their 2-1 lead. Dory now behind his own goal. Rolled it around for Geoffrion. Leduc poaching at the red line. Geoffrion slowly out. Now finds Leduc. One man to beat Plum. Forget that. Ron stick checked that away. Hammered it to Warner. Tardif stepped into him. Here's Keon over that line. Keon, quick shot. Corsi saved. Warner's rebound. Corsi stopped that. Standing up well. Here's Lyle. Got his skates trapped in a bad spot in the ice. Starts back as Dory dumps in wide of the goal. Geoffrion centered it. Marty Howe knocked it away. Again, just curls harmlessly to the red line. LaRiviere rolled it over to Dory. Warner trying to beat him to it. Warner beats Dory. He's got Keon and Marcow. Keon's cutting in behind the goal. Centered it to Plum. Quick backhand wide. Keon backhand. Score! Save Keon. A 3-1 Whaler lead. Another case of just true grit. And this time it's Mr. Keon. His hard work pays dividends at 14:06.
Keon dug the puck out of the corner and tried to feed it out front to Ron Plum, and Plum had a little difficulty controlling it, so Keon picked it up after circling around the net, rammed it home on the short side, downstairs on Corsi, and we've got a 3-1 Whaler lead.
New England Whalers hockey from Quebec City will continue in just a moment. Dave Keon's 11th goal of the year from Ron Plum and Jim Warner. Jim's first point as a Whaler at 14:06. New England has stormed to a 3-1 advantage. If they tie or if they win, they'll be back on the top spot. Actually, they've got to win to gain sole possession of that. If they tie, they'll be tied with these Nordiques in Winnipeg. Cloutier. We haven't heard much from him in the second period. There's Quebec delayed offside. Will not be whistled. Bernier shovels back for Baxter. Banks for Bilodeau. It's a 2-line pass. The pass originating from Baxter behind the Quebec blue line, accepted by Bilodeau over center, and then 2 lines. For 14 minutes and 35 seconds anyway, John Hewig, one of the most solid periods of hockey I've seen the Whalers play in a long, long time.
It certainly is, Bob, and I have to go back to that Keon effort. Tremendous effort around the net and then jamming it home.
5:20 to go. Baxter for Bilodeau. Lacroix checked that. McKenzie couldn't get a shot away. Tremblay took it back for Quebec. The deke on Lacroix left it there for Bad News. Bilodeau over that Whaler line. They stick check that back to center ice. 5:05 counting down. Second period. 3-1 New England. Baxter now weaving over that Whaler line. Lead a stick check at the center ice. And the Whalers again just trying to check Quebec. Tremblay rolled it to Cloutier. Cloutier, the only Quebec goal for Bilodeau. Back for Lee to steal. Lee trying to make a play, has Marcow breaking, and Lacroix rolled it too far for Andre. Marcow trying to prevent icing here, and he does it with good hustle. Dropped it off Hank Slavin. Slap, tip wide, Andre Lacroix. Andre dug it out. Andre looking. Andre still holding. He's in a traffic jam. He rolled it beautifully to Hank Slavin. The puck bounces over his stick, recaptures, wrist shot, blocked by Tremblay. Tripped by McKenzie. There'll be a Whaler penalty here. John McKenzie for tripping J.C. Tremblay. Second period action will continue from Quebec in just a moment.
On that last penalty to McKenzie, Mark Howe made an excellent play to prevent the icing, and it could have been interpreted as a little quick dive, but Pye's got 2 minutes for in the penalty box right now, and we've got the powerful Nordique power play once again.
An ill-timed penalty to John McKenzie. The Whalers had things going their own way and are taking attacking zone penalty against this team is, again, not a good time for a penalty because you don't want to give this team any chance to gather momentum. They're a quick burst type hockey club. Tardif, quick bang, Swift kicked that away. And Dave Keon, who's been masterful all evening long, cleared that full length. The idea against Quebec, you can lull them to sleep. Just don't wake them up with foolish penalties. Now it's Baxter. A roller to Tardif. Tardif at center ice. For Baxter. Dumps in wide of Al Smith. Hank Slavin there will rattle it around the boards all the way up the ice. 120 on the McKenzie penalty, 3:40, second period. Whalers 3-1. It was 1-1 after one. Mark Tardif behind his own goal for Cloutier. Back for Tardif. Keon and Warner, the penalty killers. Now for Geoffrion. Banks for Leduc. That's going to be onside, but it was poked away by Warner. Tardif controls a minute to go on the McKenzie minor penalty. Baxter in the middle of Tardif. Center ice. Trying to find an opening. He's over the Whalo line. He stops. Trying to set up shot. Backhand flip for Leduc. Rolls behind the goal. Warner's got to look for the opening. Finds it and sends it 160 feet up ice. Nordic fans getting a bit tested. Tardif to Cloutier. Over that Whalo line. Cloutier poked by Lacroix to center ice. 30 seconds on the McKenzie penalty. Tardif to Tremblay. Tremblay, the maestro. Broken up by Marcoux. 20 seconds on the McKenzie penalty. Quebec frustrated. Tremblay to Bernier. Around Lacroix. Centered it to Cloutier. Back for Tremblay. Tremblay in the circle for Cloutier to Bernier. He rolled it wide of Bordelot. And Marcoux cleared it, not out. Tremblay held it in. Hank Slavin took it back. McKenzie set to come back on. He's out, 5 aside. Lacroix gave it right to Tremblay, but the Whalers have survived. Marcoux a steal, quick shot wide. Rebound Tremblay. Marcoux with some nifty thievery. Here's Cloutier to Bernier. Strong arms Roberts, centers it. It's tipped to Miller. He's dashing away with Rogers, 2-on-2. Miller going wide on the Riviere. Stops for trailers, they both fall to the ice. Roberts in there to dig it out. Center it! Of course, you watch that slide wide. Bordelot back. Bordelot's lead was tipped by Rogers, or at least Roberts to Bordelot. He went nowhere. Rogers starts back for knowing he's going to Antonovich busting down that wing. There's the pinballing effort for Mike cutting in. He was taken to the glass by Dubé, and Hoganson dug it out. A bank for Fitchner. 2-on-4. A flip, they'll chase it down. Roberts plays the man, Miller plays the puck. Round the boards, it goes for Inkpen in the middle for Rogers. Rogers gave it away to Bordelot. Bordelot back. Stopped by Roberts. He boots into the zone. They kick it around. Inkpen couldn't clear it. Fitchner in the corner. Fitchner centers it. That hit Dave Inkpen. He's going to sit on it right there. A little Miss Muffet style, and we've got 1:10 to play in the second period.
I think, Bob, that play by Marcoux, just as McKenzie's penalty ended, J.C. Tremblay was a little careless. I believe it was Tremblay, a little careless in his own zone, and Mark just picked it off like he was picking cherries and let one of those famous wrist shots of his go. He just leans on it for a little second and let it go, and he scored on one of those on Friday night in Springfield, and of course he had a tough time with it, so could have been a 4-1 hockey game. Tremendous penalty-killing effort there, and it's a real lift that we held the power play off on the Nordiques again going in the late stages of the second period.
1:10 to go. Quebec wins the draw. Tardif chips that. Keon did a bang at the center ice. La Riviere for Quebec. Rolled it to Cloutier. Keon just swatted that back to Hogan. Ahead for Tardif. Tardif with plenty of room. Good deke on Marty Howe. Cutting into the slot. Trying to go right through. Stopped by Keon and Plum. Plum headmans to Warner with Lyle busting. A soft pass. Offside. And Warner knew that if he gave him a bullet backhand pass, he'd have been onside. But that's a technique that very few players master, that backhand flip pass.
Now here's Warner passing up to Lyle, and he's a couple strides offside. But if the pass had come a little quicker, if George had been able to straddle the blue line, he'd have been in free on Corsi.
Just needed a little more zip on that. Bill Dineen obviously pleased with the way things have gone here in the middle period. Whalers have taken a 3-1 lead, short-handed goal by Lee and an even strength goal by Keon. Marcow working hard to dump it in behind Corsi. LaRiviere bugged by Keon. Keon the steal to Marcow. Bad angle, roller for Warner. He couldn't jam it to the corner. Tardif there. A lead for LaRiviere. He gave it away to Ron Plum, who's played a solid game, and he dumps it in behind Corsi. 20 seconds and counting. Tardif up for Jeffrey on. They try and give and go. Marcow stopped that to Warner. Good play back to Mark. Bad angle. Will try to find a player. Finds his brother Marty to slap. Corsi the pad save. 4 seconds. They're going to run out of clock. There's the siren, and so the score at the end of the second period is the New England Whalers 3, the Quebec Nordiques 1. Back in Quebec City. If you joined us late, the Whalers lead it by a score of 3-1. Goals by Ron Plum, Rick Lee, and Dave Keon, while Réal Cloutier has scored for the Quebec Nordiques. And Whaler fans can be seen everywhere in the circuit. We saw a number of them down in Birmingham, and Quebec is one of their more popular locales too, and why not, especially during this winter carnival.
During the winter carnival, and we just saw a banner. There's a lot of fans here from East Hartford, Connecticut, holding a banner up here earlier, and just a reminder to all fans, groups and Whalers make an ideal combination, and for group information, please contact the Whaler office, and we'll accommodate you any way we can. And the Nordiques certainly have accommodated the people from East Hampton. I rode up on the plane with some of them today, and they very excited about tonight, and they've been treated very well since arriving in Quebec City.
Dave Keon has certainly been one of the leading catalysts thus far with that key goal late in the second period, but above and beyond that, his persistence has paid big dividends for Bill Dineen so far. The Whalers with a 3-1 lead, but Quebec so explosive. Don't chalk this up in the W column yet. His play starts with Dory at his own line. Bumped by Lyle. George trying to cut in, slides it to Warner. Warner took it wide and stumbles and lost the puck. So a great chance there, and Warner just tried to make the perfect play, and it just cost him. Here's Leduc ramming it in behind Al Smith. On it there, Hank Slavin. Gave it away to Tardif. Tardif twisting on Keon, back for Leduc. Centered that, and it was skated away by Keon. He's got Hank Slavin and Warner 3-on-3. Dave down that left side over the Quebec line. Dave dropped it, but right there is Richie Leduc for Quebec. Leduc on the right wing for Danny Jeffrion, the rookie. A long fake slap. Lee knocked him down. Hank Slavin in the corner. Shoveled it around the right side for Warner. He's bumped there by Dory. Dug out Tardif. Shot blocked Hank Slavin. He'll try to lead Lyle or Keon. Pass for Dave. I think Dave felt that would have been offside, so we let it slide in. Of course, he shoveled it around for Jeffrion. We've played a minute of the third period. Whalers with a 2-goal lead. Jeffrion, pass for Bernier. He jumped the gun. Offside. That last play early on, John Warner's great chance. Didn't shoot it really. He had 15 feet an open shot. He tried to do what so many other guys do, make the perfect play. Wound up actually taking himself out of the play.
He did, trying to make the play and pulling Corsi out of position as he did. And he did have Corsi down, but his momentum carried him a little too far. And then I think with the new ice, there may have been something on it. He tripped and went into the boards.
Cloutier up for Bernier, back for Tremblay. J.C. Tremblay to center ice. He's around Lacroix, and he banks it in behind Whaler goalie Al Smith. First on it, Cody Roberts. Roberts couldn't clear it. Bernier jammed it back. Inkpen around the right side for John McKenzie. Bumped by Bordelot, dugout. Bordelot behind the goal. Bordelot trying to jam it. Bordelot wrestled by Inkpen. Marcow control. Bumped by Cloutier and Roberts. And play is called with a score in New England 3, Quebec 1. Whalers hockey will continue in just a moment. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is New England Whaler hockey. Play back on. Baxter, the slap. Smith the save and a screen. Inkpen shoveled around the boards for Marcow. Couldn't use that. Tremblay back to dump it over to Baxter. 3-1 New England. Third period of play. A Whaler win. They're back in first place in the WHA. McKenzie's got Marcow wide open. Couldn't feed it to him. Slid it back to Roberts. Roberts trying to deke Cloutier. Can't do that. And Dory, rather Tremblay, took it away in the middle of Baxter. Baxter, left wing for Bordelot. Good check by McKenzie, but Lacroix was trapped inside, and that was clearly a New England offside. Quebec is changing players. 3-1 is our score. Plum's second, Keon's 11th, and Lee's 5th while shorthanded.
John McKenzie looking for his 400th point tonight in the WHA in his career. He had an assist. There's Kurt Brackenberry out of the lineup. He suffered a shoulder injury by doing one-handed push-ups a week ago. He'll be back in Springfield on the 18th as the Nordiques come in.
One-handed push-ups, huh?
One-handed
I have
push-ups.
trouble enough with two. I could use another round myself. Brackenberry, big threat for the Nordiques. His presence means an awful lot. He's got a heart that's so big, and he's a superb defensive player.
He certainly is, and he's kind of the catalyst in some respects to get the Nordiques going at times, just like Ty McKenzie is with the Whalers.
Rogers, Antonovich, and Miller against Legacy, Dubé, and Cote. And Jacques Demers tries to get something going. Hoganson shot, pad, save, rebound, Rogers. This is a good forechecking line for Quebec. Dubé couldn't get a shot away. Now Cote and Legacy trying to jam it around. Legacy dug it out for Dubé. They can scramble as trio, but they couldn't set up Hoganson. And of course, he will come way out, stumble with it, and drop it off for Hoganson. 3-1 New England. Good lead for Cote, but he failed to play it. Plum for Miller. That was broken up by Lacombe. Miller took it back, waiting for a trailer. Finds Marty Howe. Marty Howe is hooked by Dubé. Norman Dubé rolls it around behind his own goal to Francois Lacombe in the middle for Legacy. Miller ties him up in knots and dumps it back for Marty Howe. Cross ice to Plum, short flip to Miller, couldn't quite collect it. It rolls in wide of the goal. It's not ice. Lacombe there, strangled by Miller. Tonovich jamming as well. Legacy dug it out. Legacy's got plenty of room. Jean-Guy Legacy, and that right side to Norman Dubé, 3-on-3 to Cote. Plum broke it up, and he's done a lot of that tonight. Dubé dumped it back for Lacombe. 3.5 minutes have been played. Third, final period. Whalers with a 2-goal lead. Leduc dumps it off for Lacombe. Francois trying to get things organized for Tardif, shifting gears over that Whaler line, dancing and broken up by Plum. Warner trying to shovel it out. He does. He was hooked by Tardif. There'll be a penalty. Mark Tardif for hooking Jim Warner at 3:43. A big break for the Whalers. With a score, New England 3, Quebec 1. Let's pause for this message.
Jim Warner's done it. Like Tardif may have been a little frustrated. He pulled Warner down, and Tardif's got 2 minutes.
Certainly a foolish penalty for Tardif to take at this stage. If the Whalers can get a fourth one, they'd have a tough lead. Mark Cow rattled that off the pads of Fitchner. 16 minutes and 8 seconds to play in the game. But remember, Quebec is a sleeping giant. And that momentum can build very, very quickly. But the Whalers have checked superbly here tonight. Woody Roberts ahead for Keon. Dave in the middle. Dave over that Quebec line. Trying to find an open player. Finds Roberts. He's got McKenzie in front. Doesn't see him. Finds Keon to Mark Cow. Wrist shot. Corsi made a superb save. Roberts shovels behind the goal. Roberts around the right side. Back to Mark Cow. Back for Gordy Roberts. Side of the circle. Breaks it up. Doesn't shoot it. Still looks. Now to Mark Cow. Rolling in the shot. Wide of the goal. Roberts the rebound. He shoveled it wide. McKenzie trying to make a play. Tied up in a small package by Bernier. Dug up by Roberts, put up into the mesh. They're going to argue about the position of this face-off. The Whalers say at the circle, the Nordiques say outside, and the Quebec Nordiques are going to win this argument.
Nordiques will win the face-off outside of their end, and that's territorial-wise, it's a big advantage for the Nordiques because it's out of their zone, and if they can win the draw, they can either rag it a little bit or just send it down the ice, and it kills precious seconds on this power play.
Each team has had 2 shots thus far in this third period. Overall, the Whalers have outshot Quebec 23-18 and lead at 3-1. Mark Cow at center ice for Jimmy Warner down that left side. Warner sizing things up in the corner. Stops, sets up traffic behind the goal to Stoughton. Back for Warner. Warner taking a look. Warner still holding, now for Stoughton. Stoughton centers it to Warner. He couldn't get a stick on it. Mark Cow will try. Wrist shot wide of the goal. Warner trying to keep it alive. Baxter trying to slam it out, and he does. 40 seconds in the Tardif penalty. Now Mark Cow behind his own goal. Will wait for Warner to swing left. Stoughton to swing right with Lacroix. And he feeds it to Andre Lacroix. Andre at his own line, weaving his way to the red line. Now over that Quebec blue line, and Stoughton very unnecessarily went offside on the right wing. 14:43 to go and 25 seconds on the penalty to Tardif.
I believe, Bob, this is Stoughton's first shift. I don't believe he had a shift in the second period, if I'm not mistaken, and it could be that his chest is bothering him a little more. I know he suffered an injury on his chest in Birmingham on Saturday night.
Well, I would think that Bill Dineen has been pleased with the two-way play of Jim Warner, and I don't know whether Stoughton is hurt or not, but Warner is, in this type of game, might be a better bet than Stoughton, who's a great offensive player, but sometimes his checking leaves something to be desired, and the Whalers have checked superbly well. Lee from Miller cutting in, he couldn't connect. Miller evaded the trip attempt by Corsi. Now Miller wraps up Tremblay, and we have a face-off there. You might very well be right about Stoughton, John Hewig, that he may well be hurt, but I know that Bill Dineen likes Jim Warner very, very much. He's his type of hockey player.
Well, he is, and what you say certainly holds water, especially with Stoughton being out there in the power play because of his sniping ability.
14-17 to play in the game. Whalers idle till Saturday when they'll play Winnipeg at home ice. Kuche now throws it cross ice for Tardif. As he's back on and teams are 5 aside. Crowd yells because the referee was caught in traffic. Dory over to LaRiviere. LaRiviere's lead too far for Tremblay. It's wide of Al Smith. He'll hold it there. And from Quebec City, the scorers, the New-Inglэnd Whalers 3 and the Quebec Nordiques 1. In Quebec City, exactly 6 minutes of this third period. Whalers holding to a 3-1 edge. LaCroix won the draw for Lee. Round the boards for Hank Slavin. Continues on that right side to Warner. He's roughed up by Dory. Tardif dug it out. Hank Slavin took it away and just chipped that down in the Quebec zone. LaRiviere back to collect for Coach Jacques Demers. Gary LaRiviere dropped it off for Cloutier. He's been very quiet in the second period and here in the third. Here's Cloutier over that Whaler line. Crashed into his own man. Bernier looked outside. Tardif shot stopped by Smith. Hank Slavin cleared it to center ice. 6.5 minutes have been played in the period. Dory. For checking his Marcow. The Whalers' problem here is not to be too cautious. Now Bernier in his own zone. Bernier dumped it off for Dory. Dory to center. Dory with a high flip, glove from Lee to Marcow. Mark checked by Cloutier around for Hank Slavin, controls a bouncing puck, fed it around for Warner, and he shoveled it ahead of Lacroix. 2-on-1 with Marcow. Here's a great chance. Lacroix and Mark. Good pass to Mark, but he lost it off his skate blade. Marcow bumped by LaRiviere. Dug out by Tardif ahead for Cloutier. Cloutier, Tardif and Bernier. Jacques Demers puts all his eggs in one basket on this shift. Cloutier, good move on Lee. Hank Slavin covered, stole it away, and iced the puck. And again, John Hewig, perhaps a glimpse of some overcautious New England play. So difficult against Quebec. There's a subtle difference between checking and standing around and being ultra defensive and just shoot it out at first offering. There's a very fine line to draw there.
There certainly is, and you could not put it a better way by saying that the Nordiques are a sleeping giant. And, you know, they used to say, Mark Tardif, if you leave him alone and don't hit him and don't wake him up, you'll be all right. But if you hit him once or twice, he's going to get 4 goals on you. Just boom, 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 boom. And I think that I think we have to be a little less cautious about what we're doing right now and take the play a little more to the Nordiques.
Here's the draw, one by Keon to Lyle, and again he just shovels it out to the red line. Lacombe dropped it off for Hogan, gave it away to Lyle, jammed it back in behind goalkeeper Jim Corsi. He lost it to Lyle, trying to stuff it. Warner, backhand shot, blocked by the defense. Jim in a second chance couldn't tee it up. Marty Howe took it away from the Duke. Quebec had ideas of walking out 3-on-2. Here's Keon, good deke on Lacombe, but Marty Howe is ahead of the play offside. And just another opportunity. And, John, I feel if the Whalers get a fourth, it's going to be tough to beat here tonight.
It will be. 12 minutes left is enough time for the Nordiques to score. But if the Whalers were to score now, they would, I would think, be able to put the hammer down on the Nordiques, and would be a tremendous victory for the Whalers here in Quebec City.
Whalers unbeaten in their last 4. Their high for the year is 6. That was in December. Here's a Lyle steal. Pumping with Lacombe. Tardif dug it out. Keon jamming it away. Keon behind the goal looking for Marty Howe. Finds Warner. And that was stopped beautifully by Lacombe, who made a tremendous block for Quebec. Francois Lacombe saved the day as Keon set up Warner beautifully. Tardif to Lacombe. 11:45 to play. Lacombe's flipper for Leduc will roll in on Al Smith. Shovels it around for Jim Warner. Jim flipped that safely to the red line. Hale Hoganson there. Hoagie up on that left side to Tardif off his stick. He'll chase it down at his own line. Tardif. Warner after him. He rolled it over to Lacombe. Francois for Hoganson. Again, the Whalers just trying to check. Hoganson for Jeffrion. Banged that off the jaw of Marty Howe. Quebec's delayed offside will not be called because the Whalers shot it out. Extremely defensive-minded. Here's Dale Hoganson in his own zone. 11:05 to go. Whalers changing players. Hoganson, the center. Hoganson caroms that. Plum to jam it, not out. Hoganson patted it back to Jeffrion. He's got legacy. Great move on Rogers. Smith stopped him. Rogers lost the rebound. Tardif slider is stopped by Smith. Again, a small example of the opportunists, Quebec Nordiques.
I think here in a case it was a case of, well, we have Jeffrion pulling in here and taking a shot and Smitty making the save and covering up on Tardif's rebound. But earlier, Ron Plum was sandwiched between the two Nordique players, and they both got him pretty good, and that's how the Jeffrion play developed.
Off the draw. They bang it around. Antonovich, again, just shoots it out. And we're going to have penalties. Roberts and Bordelot glaring. They've already been jousting. And now Baxter comes in. He might want to take a pop at Gordy Roberts. Miller after Baxter to keep him away from the fray. So if Baxter takes a pop at Gordy Roberts, that'll be the best thing to happen to New England because they'll draw an extra penalty. Right now it's even up. Roberts and Bordelot go off. Bordelot had some words for Gordy Roberts, but you had to notice him wait for the linesman to step between. He didn't want to drop the gloves with Gordy Roberts.
No, I agree with you, Bob, and it could be a sign of frustration more than anything else. The Whalers overall tonight have tied them up very well and very effectively, and the Nordiques, that's tough to do on home ice. They're not used to it, and it kind of frustrates them, and yet the New England Whalers have done an excellent job overall tonight in doing so.
Gordy Roberts gets penalty minute number 66 and 67 of the year, along with Polly and Bordelot. He gets his 16th minute. They both get flashing penalties. 9:14 the time. We'll skate 4 men aside. 3-1 New England. Lee over to Hank Slavin. In the middle of Lacroix. Back for Lee. Lee weaving. Spinning on Bernier. Lee to Lacroix. Lacroix back for Lee. Couldn't tip it. Of course he knocked it away. Cloutier controls with Bernier. Baxter and Tremblay. Cloutier dumped by Lee. Works it to Bernier nonetheless. With strong Bernier over that Whale line. Mark Howe played the puck, got away with it. Mark Howe racing back with Lacroix. Steaming over that line to Lacroix. To Mark! And Corsi, a spectacular pass save. Combination play there like they draw it up on the chalkboard.
That play developed. Here's Mark Howe with one of 4 speeds of his, and he sees Lacroix, passes it over. Andre the Magician throws it right back to Mark, and Corsi, a spectacular save. And that's why Corsi is second in the league right now in goaltending. His anticipation, he brought his right leg pad out, and Mark had been able to go upstairs with it. It could have been a 4-1 game, but don't take any credit away from Jim Corsi. An excellent play overall.
3-1 is the score. 9 seconds before the teams change ends for the third period. That was so close to that 4th Whaler goal. They stop left of Corsi. Warner and LaRiviere. Warner won the draw to Hank Slavin. A shot, and that rocketed into the glass. Loose puck. Keon a whack at it. Play goes on. Leduc cleared it to the corner. Warner's shot hit the side of the net. And we have 10 minutes of hockey left, and New England Whaler hockey from Quebec City will continue in just a moment. We've got 10 minutes of play remaining in the third period. The Whalers 3, the Quebec Nordiques 1. Whalers in third place, just a single point behind Quebec and Winnipeg, who came into this game tied. Winnipeg not playing tonight, so a Whaler win, they'll put him back in the top spot. Here's Dave Keon, bugged by Leduc. Keon was able to slide it over to Lee. These two have been the big story tonight, Keon and Lee for the Whalers. Hank Slavin jamming it in behind Jim Corsi. The Whalers are treating this 4-on-4 almost like killing a penalty. Now it's LaRiviere, dumps it off for Tardif, shifting gears. Coasting, beautiful drop, Leduc. They call it offside, and Tardif wound up right on his backside. Compliments of Rick Lee. 9:31. Seems to me now, John, that we're skating 4-on-4, and the Whalers are playing it pretty smartly. They're just throwing it around, and they just don't want to get into a position where they get three men caught up on.
No, I agree with that, and I think they're playing very well defensively, and they've got, the Nordiques have their big gunners out there. You've got to be cautious.
Here's Lacombe back in his own zone, backing on Keon. Keon eyeballing him, ahead for Leduc. On that right side to Tardif, the drop to LaRiviere to Lacombe. Center ice to Tardif. Beautiful pass to Lacombe. They call Leduc offside in the right wing. Nice combination play there. And Tardif, ostensibly with eyes in the back of his head, the way he was able to feather that back for the trailing first while Lacombe.
That is a play that the Nordiques have mastered, and I've seen that for 3 years. They all seem, Cloutier, Bernier, Tardif, they have eyes in the back of their heads, and it's not only at the blue line, it's in the corners too, in the offensive corners and the top of the circle, and it's resulted in so many goals in the past that I think the Whalers have to be aware of that, and they have been to date, I mean, they've done an excellent job in that particular area.
Here is Warner, who's played a lot of hockey tonight for Coach Bill Dineen. McKenzie with a tender ankle. We haven't seen him in the third period. Stoughton not seeing much ice time, and Miller and Warner have done a big job on that right side tonight. Here's Baxter. Cross for Bernier, kind of a haphazard pass. Lacroix took it back for New England. For Lee. For Warner. 2 men to beat. Wrist shot blocked Baxter. Warner his own rebound. Warner trying to make a play. Warner working hard. Warner dug it free. Warner for Lee. They just failed to hold it in. Good hard work by Jimmy Warner. Here's Hank Slavin losing it to Bernier, and Lee poked that away. Roberts back on with Bordelot. Lacroix shovels to Hank Slavin. Weaving his way. Bordelot took it back. Warner stepped into him, played the man beautifully. He's a heavy hockey player. Lacroix to Warner. Take the slap. Wrap it off to Hank Slavin. The back checking Tardif took it back. He's flying, and Lacroix poked it back for Tremblay. 8:30 to go. Tremblay's lead for Tardif that appeared to be offside and was finally called by linesman Wayne Bonney. Third period action will continue from Quebec City in just a moment. And Whalers trying to hold a 3-1 advantage. Lacroix with Mark Howe. Andre safely shovels in wide of Corsi. Goals there for defenseman Baxter. Ball Baxter for Cloutier. Cloutier shuffling his way around Lacroix, trying to find Bernier. 1 man to beat Hank Slavin. They call that offside. No, they don't. I thought I heard a whistle. Play goes on. Lacroix heads for Warner with Mark Howe. Warner for Mark Howe. Good pass. Trying to beat Tremblay. Wrist shot. JC got a piece of that. It's Cloutier in the corner. Rolled it back for Tardif. He's steaming out of his own zone. Trying to find Bernier. Blocked by Lee. Lee has done virtually everything tonight. And that right side for Warner is knocked away by Baxter. Lacroix to start it again for Mark Howe. Mark Howe rolled a soft one. Tremblay controls. Junk walled up for Cloutier. Out with Bernier and Tardif. Cloutier to that Whaler line. A shot. That hit a stick, and up in the crowd it goes. Rick Lee. Immense tonight for New England.
Rick Lee has played an outstanding game, both on the defensive aspects of it, but also the key goal of this game to date, I think, would be Lee's shorthanded goal from Lacroix when he burst around Tremblay and tucked it over Corsi. And that, right now, is the difference in the game. It's a 3-1 hockey game, but Ricky Lee has the potential game-winning goal. But he's been a standout on defense all night and played another exceptional game.
Quebec has had 5 shots this period. The Whalers 4. Riviere's chipper. Jeffrey on the rebound on the far boards. Jeffrion squeezed by Marty Howe. Jeffrion dug it out. Jeffrion centered it, and Smith out with that big goalie glove to pluck it away. I think Rick Lee in the last 2 weeks has asserted himself. Let's face it, he always gives you a solid 100% effort, but the last 2 weeks especially, he's just been outstanding.
I think, actually, Bob, since the All-Star break, when he played those 3 games in Edmonton against the Soviet Union, and Sean in all of them, he was selected as the top player for the WHA in the 3rd game, and could very well have received it in one of the other games, too. And since then, he's been such a consistent, outstanding performance, day in and day out.
Way back on, 7:12 to go. Plum around for Warner. Jams it out to Rogers. Big break here. Rogers, Warner, Antonovich. Mike over the line. Stops. Shoots. Of course he did save. Al LaRiviere. Back for Quebec. 7 minutes to go. LaRiviere to center. LaRiviere chops it in wide of Al Smith. Al works it around the boards. Jammed back by LaRiviere. Quebec starting to gamble. Rogers around the boards while Marty Howe's got LaRiviere tied up. Carter for shot. Smith a save. Rebound. Plum a save. Jams it over to Marty Howe, who's lost his hat. Cleared it ahead for Warner. Too heavy. A good pass there would have sent Warner out 3 on 2. Al Lacombe on the near boards for Tardif. Tardif crashed into Warner. 6:30 to go. Lacombe, it's a 2-goal Whaler advantage for Tardif. Tardif at center. Tardif flips in the direction of Leduc. Smith out to knock it away from him. Leduc bumped by Plum. Marty Howe still playing without his helmet. Plum knocked down Leduc. Headman's Rogers with Antonovich. Mike trying to find Antonovich. Over the line, trying to go wide on Tremblay. Cuts it alone. Fakes. Scores! Mike Antonovich! 4-1 Whalers. Oh, did he ever put the deke on Corsi? And once again, they blew by Mr. J.C. Tremblay.
That's exactly right. And I think the key to the play is here he's going around J.C. Tremblay. He takes Corsi over, fakes him out, and then, as we were talking about before, he went upstairs with it, and that's the key to scoring on something like that.
Third period action will continue from Quebec City in just a moment. Still too early to start uncorking the champagne tonight. Keon over the line. Keon, good move on Bernier. Keon behind the goal. Keon right in front. And Warner stuffed it to the side of the net. Jimmy got it back. Bumped by Leduc. Bernier as well. Face-off called. 3:18 to go. Keon, Lee, John, to me, clear-cut 1-2 tonight in either order. Lee probably the best, and Keon right behind him as far as the 2 best players in. Tremblay. Too far for Leduc. Back for Tardif. Keon after him. Keon and Tardif battle. Leduc dug it out. Rolled one wide of Al Smith. We have exactly 3 minutes to play in this hockey game. Mark Howe just safely shovels it to the Quebec zone. Whalers 4, Nordiques 2. Can they hang on? Tremblay behind his own goal. Tremblay, who's been burnt tonight several times. Banks for Cloutier. Cuts into the middle. Getting set. Drop for Tardif. The bomb. Hank Sladen went down to block it. Leduc centers it. Lee knocked it away. Leduc after it with Lee. Rick wants the face-off.
Bernier after it was dropped to him from Tardif.
I want to know when Cloutier, Tardif, but on the bench and Burns playing time. Whalers win the draw. Bang in the Quebec zone. Miller racing after it. Baxter screens him. Actually interferes with him as play goes on. Tardif for Cloutier. For Bernier. Bernier swinging in his own zone. 2:25 to go. Bernier around Rogers. Bernier dumped it off for Tardif. Squeezed by Mark Cowell. Mark took it away, trying to kick it out. Jammed by Baxter. Lee will skate it out. He's got men breaking. He's got Miller and Rogers. Warren to Mike. Breakaway. Cutting in. Cloutier checks him. Rogers continues with the puck. Centers it wildly to Cloutier. Not a good play by Rogers. Cloutier to Bernier. Lee played the man. Mark Cowell played the puck. Round the boards for Miller. And we've got Lee and Bernier saying, how do you do? That was a clean check that Lee laid on Bernier. And again, the frustration that you alluded to earlier, John Hewig. But a fine play by Lee. That was textbook defense. He just stepped into the man, and Bernier didn't like it.
It certainly was. Bernier was coming down the right side. Ricky Lee took the body, which you're supposed to do. Bernier put him in a headlock, and Ricky Lee was just trying to get rid of him. And then Bernier came up swinging a little bit. And
number 1 star Rick Lee tonight.
Certainly deserved it. He had the short-handed goal that we spoke about. He was playing tremendous hockey, blocked some shots, played well in front of the net, stood up at the blue line. He's been consistent for the past 2 weeks, more so than I've seen in my 4 or 5 years in the WHA. And, of course, this is my first year with the Whalers, but excellent for him.
Whalers outshot Quebec tonight, 30-25, outplayed them and well-deserved their 5-3 win. For the record, they selected Paul Baxter as the second star and Jimmy Warner of the Whalers as the third star, but Jimmy, we'll just say that Dave Keon certainly should have been awarded a star as well.
Dave Keon was one of my stars, and I know he was one of yours too, Bob.
John, nice to work with you tonight from Quebec.
Pleasure. I really enjoyed it, Bob. You do an excellent job.
Thank you for joining us tonight. For John Hewig, Bob Neumeier saying so long.